Hi and welcome to Chop Chat Cook. I'm Joanne and today we've got Edwina in the kitchen. Welcome Edwina.
Hi, Joanne.
And today we're going to be talking about the healing power of story. So thanks Edwina. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a writer and I also teach writing. I'm also a yoga teacher. So what I've found is that through my teaching and writing career, there's been a resonating theme, which is healing life wounds or traumas through writing. So I ran a school actually in Cambodia in the mid-90s, and a lot of my students, as soon as they had the English to get the words down, to either tell me or write, they were telling me the stories of their trauma during the Pol Pot revolution, which really impacted on me. And I've worked a lot with other traumatised people. I've worked in juvenile justice centres with young men and with migrants and refugees in the community. And of course I had my own difficulties in my adolescence. And that's what my own book, Thrill Seekers, is about. And that's really where I learned about teaching writing for healing, and the healing power of story was through writing Thrill Seekers. So when I was an adolescent, my brother developed schizophrenia really quite badly when he was only 15 or 16.
Oh, it's really sad.
And yeah, this is the wonderful thing about the healing power of story, is that these were the stories that were stuck in my head. So I was able, by writing them out, finally getting them out of my head and onto the page, and then using fiction. This is my secret trick, is yes, it's very healing to get down those stories and get them out of your head and onto the page, but by transforming them through fiction, you can change the endings and change the way your brain copes with those stories or sees those stories. So in real life, my brother killed himself at 20, but in the book, I get to make him live.
That's really sad, Edwina.
It's all right. It's a long time ago now, and I feel quite good about it now. It's not the terrible injury that it was when I was a young person, because I have these stories in there, and it's also a way to remember people we've lost, of course, writing. It's a primary impetus for people to write is the death of somebody they love.
Yeah.
So I learned that by writing Thrill Seekers, and then more recently when I did Bioki Blues, I realised that I was doing the same thing again.
Yeah.
So this is a collection of 45 stories from people who were on the wrong side of the Joh Bjelke-Petersen government. So we've got Indigenous people, environmentalists, women, basically, students. You didn't have to do much to be on the wrong side. But I realised that they were telling their stories of trauma. So the multiple police raids and arrests, the police bashings and so on, things like that. So it's by getting those stories out of the head and onto the page that the healing begins.
Okay. I think that's quite profound. Is it? And very sad, isn't it, as well, that there's so many stories.
This is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
There are lots and lots and lots. And, I think everybody has their own stories, that the ones that get stuck in your head when it's late at night or you wake up in the middle of the night, the story you can't get rid of, that's the story you really need to tell.
Yeah, and that's the story you need to start writing about.
Yes. Get it out of your head and onto the page, and then start changing it around.
Yeah. I think that's really quite profound, isn't it?
It's very powerful.
Yeah. On that note, we've got blueberry chia puddings to make as well, haven't we?
Yes.
Well, we talk about this a little bit more.
Yeah, so I'm excited about this. These chia seeds are amazing. You can make all sorts of desserts that aren't bad for you and you can eat a lot of.
Yeah, and they're vegan too?
Yes, vegan.
Are we going to use coconut milk this time?
Yes.
Yep.
So we've got coconut milk and blueberries for this one. You can use whatever you like. So I made one with raspberries the other day, frozen raspberries.
Oh, yum.
And I mixed it all up and they all sort of broke apart a bit and everything went pink. So it was great.
Oh, nice.
So just chuck in, some chia seeds as much as you like. But make sure that you put a lot more liquid in than the chia seeds.
Yes, I think I was reading that it's a quarter of a cup of chia seeds to about a cup of liquid.
Okay.
That's what I was reading about. I was doing my research.
Yes. Good. I just like to do things by feel. So I put the whole tin in. You can usually tell. So there's no cooking involved. You just chuck them in the fridge and then you check it after a while. Check it after a couple of hours, and if it seems that it's getting too thick, just add some more liquid. So it can be whatever you like. Put in your almond milk or your soy milk or a bit more coconut milk or coconut cream if you want to be really indulgent. We'd better put our sweetener in too. With blueberries and the coconut cream, we probably shouldn't have too much.
So a bit of maple syrup?
Bit of maple syrup, whatever you like. As I was saying before, you could use a bit of juice. You could use like pineapple. Pineapple juice might not work, but because it's a bit acidic.
It is a bit acidic, isn't it?
But apricot nectar might be nice. That would make a yummy one.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So, yes.
Blueberries?
I hope that bit of paper didn't go in as well. You think that's enough? Or should we put more?
I reckon we when it's set, we drizzle, like we pop blueberries on
put
top.
the fresh ones
and then
on
we
the
can do a drizzle of maple syrup as well.
Yeah, so we can put other flavourings in. So vanilla. If you wanted to make it very coconutty, you could put some coconut essence in. Make it up as you go along. It's really very creative and it's hard to go wrong, which is fantastic.
Sometimes it depends what you've got in your cupboard, doesn't it?
Yeah. So frozen berries work really, really well. And when blueberries aren't on special, they're a great alternative. And they would make it sort of like purple, I suppose.
Yeah, that's true. A really pretty colour. So I think we're coming to the end of this episode, aren't we? So what about in closing? So, you know, like if people wanted to talk about their stories, and how do they start? Like what would your suggestions be for, like, how do they start with that sort of process?
Well, what I would do is, it depends on how great your trauma is, but for most people I would just say, have the confidence, just write down what happened. Write it down straight and go into specific details. A lot of people who have been traumatised address it at first as if it's a myth, or a fairy tale.
Oh, okay.
And that can work later on. But first of all, I think it's best to put it down in the specific details. So go back in time and use the sensory details and get into what was really going on, what you saw, heard, felt, smelt, tasted maybe.
Yeah.
And do that. Once you've got that raw thing down, the fictional techniques that you can use is to give that incident to a fictional character. So you can use the character from a book, you can give it to Harry Potter if you like, or you can invent another character, but give what happened to you to them and see how they react.
Okay.
Another very powerful technique, because I teach forgotten Australians who are people who were in institutions in their childhoods, in orphanages and detention
terrible
centres.
Stories.
Yeah, horrible, horrific ongoing trauma for years and years and years. So they have terrible stories to tell. But one way that we have been able to empower them through story is by going back and making a change in them. So they go back now with the wisdom that they have at the age they are now, but also with superpowers. So you can choose your own superpower or a magical power, or you can have a magical helper, like you can find a magic genie. What are they called? Those lamps, a genie lamp.
A genie lamp.
And you rub the lamp, and the genie can come out, and get rid of the scary nuns or the horrible abusers. So you can use your magical powers, and of course, as I did with Thrill Seekers, change the ending. You can retell that story to yourself. And by reworking the story, the more you rework it and change it in different ways, the mind runs those patterns in a way that sort of, if you do it enough, as we know with writing, it's a lot of rewriting, will revise those memories so that, as with Thrill Seekers, a lot of my memories are now completely mixed up with the stories in Thrill Seekers, so I find it hard to remember what actually happened and what I made up. So that's how powerful writing is, to make your feelings about what happened change.
Yeah.
The most important thing that I've ever learned about dealing with traumatic past is from my yoga teacher, Clive Sheridan, and what he said was, take the to me out. Things happened. Take it out, the to me. These things just happened. I mean, sometimes that's extremely difficult, but just start writing. And if these things are disturbing you, and it can be very disturbing to go back, there are thousands and thousands of hours of tears in a lot of these things. Tears help you heal, but if you're finding it very distressing, do make sure that you have supportive friends, family, and or a counsellor as well that you can talk to about.
Support.
Professional support, because it can stir up a lot of undealt with emotion. And I just thought of something else too. So with every creative writing class that I teach, we do a guided relaxation at the beginning where we put a cone of freedom around ourselves. And it's sort of like a protective shield. And that can also really help, just feeling that you're in a protected space while you're writing.
That sounds nice.
All right, let's tip these in. So we're going to do fancy ones. This time in the different glasses. Oh.
Is it heavy, is it?
Oh, one. So these will all set and become like mousse in the end.
Like a parfait.
Yeah. Oh, they look pretty yummy. And then we can...
do you want to use up the rest of that?
Yeah, you pour the rest in.
I'll pour the rest in.
Your son's going to have a lot to eat.
He's going to be really happy, isn't he? He asked me when we were making them.
Oh, well, he'll be living on them the whole week. So you could have these for breakfast. You know, they're healthy.
You could. I think that's a really good idea.
Or dessert, without feeling guilty.
Without feeling guilty. All right. Well, that looks pretty impressive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joanne.
And thanks for coming in to chat about the healing power of story. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.